broken future, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello, friends. It's Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's June 30th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Quite a bit to get to as we charge toward 4th of July weekend. America 250. What are we going to see? A few people coming online right now. Welcome. What do we got? Insanity today. A bunch of Supreme Court rulings. We're going to go over those. Take a look at Supreme Court rulings. MK Ultra hearings. Looks like Congress is mentally ill. You've got Republican Representative Tom Keene. Took like 4 months off, went missing due to depression. Is he MK Ultra? All these people seem mentally ill. MK Ultra, just whacked out, man. They're disconnected from Main Street America. That's for sure. That is for sure. So there is no peace negotiations in the Iran war. Old Kushner and Witkoff are in Doha talking to mediators, but not talking to Iran. We'll have a little bit about the back and forth of it today. I guess we'll bomb Iran again on Friday after the markets close. Maybe not over the 4th of July weekend. I don't know. Looks all like market manipulation, war, profiteering. We're going to take a look at that. A bunch of economic news, more Trump profiteering. We got a bunch of geopolitical news as well. A bunch of news about Lebanon. The genocide in Gaza continues. There's apparently we're building a giant military base there in southern Gaza, and we're going to be putting troops on the ground there to monitor the situation in Lebanon. We've got all the details on those reports. The Department of War rolling out WARFORCE, recruiting AI fluent engineers. We're going to take a look at that and much more on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Let's get to this day in history, and we'll get to all this news for you. On this day in history of June 30th, we go back to the year 1294. And when you know it, aardvarks are expelled from Switzerland. A continuing theme we see throughout history. Nothing to do with poisoning the well and drinking the baby's blood, though, per Netanyahu. Then we jump way forward. Oh, there's one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to cover this one. On this day in 1520, Spanish conquistadors are expelled from Tenochtitlan or Mexico today, following an Aztec revolt against Cortez during La Noche Triste, the Night of Sadness. Many soldiers drowned in the escape, and the Aztec emperor dies in the struggle as well. On this day, 1805, Michigan Territory organizes. On this day in 1863, battles in Hanover, Pennsylvania. During the American Civil War, we saw 80 casualties. In 1863, on this day, Dutch colony Suriname counts population of 33,000 slaves. On this day, 1864, then President Abraham Lincoln bestows 200,000 acres to the state of California, establishes America's first state-controlled park, Yosemite Grant Act. The Yosemite Park is Very nice. I recommend everyone have a chance to visit that. On this day, 1865, 8 alleged conspirators in the assassination of Lincoln are found guilty. On this day in 1906, Food Safety Act passes. U.S. Congress passes the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act. These laws owe much to the expose journalism of the period. Upton Sinclair's The Jungle in particular. Now they just poison everything and say it's safe and effective for you. So we do appreciate the Food Safety Acts. On this day in 1908, was mystery blast caused by aliens? A giant fireball, most likely caused by the air burst of a large meteorite or comet, flattens 80 million trees there in the Soviet Union, the largest impact ever recorded in history. On this day, 1908. 1921, on this day, the South African Reserve Bank is established. On this day in 1934, we saw Night of the Long Knives. Adolf Hitler stages a bloody purge of the Nazi Party in the Night of the Long Knives. And that's how these governments roll. Those radicals that bring them to power, they find are still radicalized and may overthrow them once they see all their corruption. So you got to get rid of those guys that brought you to power, i.e. J6 here in America. Trump set up J6ers, just saying. On this day, 1937, we saw the world's first emergency telephone call service launched in London, England, using the number 999. On this date, 1943, Allied forces launch Operation Cartwheel, an island-hopping mission in the Southwest Pacific to destroy Japanese bases. On this day in 1953, we saw the first Chevrolet Corvette manufactured. On this day, 1970, IBM announces its System 370 mainframe computer. Not talked about much in all of this technocracy. IBM, they're still doing their great work, I'm sure, but also part of scientific dictatorship. IBM, not to be forgotten. Ruckus always reminds me of them. 1993, on this day, the Walt Disney Company purchased Miramax Films from founders Harvey Weinstein, the same one sitting in jail right now in New York for rape, and his brother Bob Weinstein for $60 million, and hires them to return and run the division. That was before the revelations of Me Too. Harvey Weinstein came to light, obviously. On this day, 1994, Tonya Harding, banned for life. U.S. Figure Skating Association bans Tonya Harding for life after finding that she helped cover up the attack on rival Nancy Kerrigan. And on this day in 2019, where are we at here? 2019, in his first term, President Trump becomes the first sitting U.S. president to step foot in North Korea in the Korean demilitarized zone, meeting Kim Jong-un during that encounter. On this day in our civil liberties history, we have a few items. We go back to the year 1965. Then President Lyndon Baines Johnson on this day issued a confidential memo to all heads of federal agencies forbidding them to engage in wiretapping. Johnson began by writing, "I am strongly opposed to the interception of telephone conversations as a general investigative technique. he added that, in my view, the invasion of privacy of communications is a highly offensive practice that should be engaged in only where the national security is at stake. Importantly, the memo mentioned the national security exemption in 3 places. The memo allowed for some interceptions, but they had to be approved, but they had to have the approval of one of the parties involved, and also to be approved by the Attorney General in advance. Johnson's directive was a memorandum rather than executive order. However, and did not carry the same force of law. Johnson followed up with a memo to Attorney General Ramsey Clark, clarifying some of the details in this memo on June 16, 1967, which further limited wiretapping. And he then proposed a federal law prohibiting wiretapping. Johnson is the only president to publicly oppose wiretapping as a basic law enforcement tool, although he always allowed for a national security exemption. Title III of the 1968 Omnibus Crime Control Act authorized wiretapping for the first time in American history. Johnson signed the crime bill into law on June 19, 1968, because it contained many provisions he thought were extremely important. His signing statement, however, contained a strong statement opposing the wiretapping provision. But the Congress, in my judgment, has taken an unwise and potentially dangerous step by sanctioning eavesdropping and wiretapping by federal, state, and local law officials in an almost unlimited variety of situations. Johnson was extremely complex and contradictory person, however, and despite these public positions, he ordered wiretapping was familiar with the FBI was doing in other instances. He ordered surveillance of civil rights groups at the 1964 Democrat Party convention, and he was aware of FBI wiretaps on MLK and directed the CIA to spy on anti-war activists. But hey, he's against wiretapping, obviously, from his signing statement. And on this day in 2014, in our civil liberties history, Hobby Lobby corporations have religious rights. The Supreme Court on this day issued a major opinion, Burwell versus Hobby Lobby, which declared one section of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, in violation of the religious liberty of privately held corporations and created a potentially serious civil liberties problem. With respect to the exercise of religion, the court ruled that Hobby Lobby stores was exempt from the ACA because its owners objected on religious grounds to the law's requirements regarding some birth control devices. And we'll go over a bunch of Supreme Court rulings today. But here's MK Ultra. This dude just went missing, a sitting congressman. He just went missing for like 4 months, and they're like, huh? Where's he at? I don't know. He's in MK Ultra reprogramming. I don't know. He says he was suffering depression. Let's hear. He's returned. He says I entered the hospital for some testing. What the hell did they do to this guy? Republican Representative Tom Keene announces on the House floor that he vanished from his job for several months because he was too depressed about life. Well, people like you in Congress make me depressed about life. Here he is. So are they MK Ultraing Congress? It appears so.
Several months ago, due to health concerns, I entered the hospital for some testing. I did not believe that this would result in a long-term stay. I was given the diagnosis of depression. Now, when people hear the word depression, many people think simply means feeling sad. But depression is so much more than that. It is physical. It is emotional. And until you experience it yourself, it is difficult to fully understand how powerful this illness can be. The doctors recommended that I remain in the hospital to address my illness. They explained to me that this would be the fastest way to recovery. And to be honest, I was hesitant. I didn't think that I had time for it. I had responsibilities to my family. I had responsibilities to my constituents. I had responsibilities to this institution. And like many people, I believed that I could simply push through. But I agreed to follow my doctor's recommendations. Again, not believing that it would result in a long-term stay. I began to understand not only my diagnosis, but how long depression had been affecting my life. When I first informed the public that I was dealing with a medical issue, I was still trying to understand what was happening myself. When I said I hoped to return in a matter of weeks, I believed it. Those were the best estimates the doctors could provide. But as the over 48 million of my fellow Americans being treated for this illness have come to discover, there is no timeline for healing. There is no timeline for recovery. Only the work of getting better, one day at a time.
There you go. So we have mentally ill MK Ultra Congress. But hey, he votes on, he's a lawmaker here in America. The gift that keeps giving Trump here. A golden gift to the White House for its 250th birthday year. And I saw a post. These are after the war, after World War I, World War II, veterans have put these eagles on their house representing financial freedom after they had paid off their mortgage. So more mockery here by the president and the White House mocking Joe Blow, Main Street citizen here in America today. The return of supersonic flight. Bro, we're trying to afford groceries out here. President Trump is clearing the runway for supersonic flight. Today, as directed by the president's executive order, Department of Transportation proposed new rules for noise limits instead of speed limits for next generation supersonic aircraft. American ingenuity broke the sound barrier once before. Supersonic innovation means quieter, faster, and safer travel for people and goods across the country. We can't afford the jet fuel, bro. We can't afford the jet fuel. Another supersonic jet meme out of the White House. And here's actor, reality TV show actor, Fox News actor, Huffy, Duffy. They're literal actors. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't done the research if they're all part of the same bloodline as well. We know that's how they roll. But here they are saying how on the Fox News, it's like, take a look. The great success of America 250 there.
How you celebrating America 250?
See everybody there? It's like, wow. And but they're selling it as this is a great success.
Through transportation.
Well, so we've wrapped planes, trains, buses. All of our department has gotten involved, which is very cool. But don't forget, so 4th of July is big. But on August 23rd, around the mall, we're going to have a Grand Prix race. Indy cars, 185, 190 miles an hour. Last time this happened,
the fastest commute in Washington, D.C. ever.
It was. They did it.
It's packed. You see back there? So popular. Standing room only at America 250 on the National Mall there.
In 1801 or 1802, and they raced horses.
Yes.
We're now doing Indy cars. So the celebration continues. What I love is the president has leaned into all of these different ways to celebrate. The fight on the lawn of the Capitol on his birthday was absolutely epic. Again, all that's happening here, what's going to happen with the race. It's a great time to be an American.
Oh, by the way,
It's a great time to embrace idiocracy and the absurdity of these actors putting on a show for us. But back to more serious news here. The war with Iran. Here's Vance. Vance on Iran says he just doesn't seem to understand Persian negotiating. Then why is he on the negotiation team? Unless their goal is not peace, but a never-ending war, a la Bibi.
I'm not saying they're going to, I can't predict, of course, the future. But so one, there were scheduled talks, really technical talks building on the negotiation that we've already had. Those are definitely happening tomorrow. One of the things I find just fascinating and frustrating about the Iranians is they'll say, no, there aren't peace talks ongoing, but there are technical talks between the United States and Iran about the peace deal. It's like, okay, so it's a Persian negotiating tactic and a Persian rhetorical device that I don't understand, but that is.
Then why the F's he one of the lead guys here on the negotiations? He just doesn't understand. We do understand, actually. You're not even negotiating with Iran. Witkoff and Kushner are negotiating with mediators in Doha. Like, do you understand that Iran's not even talking to you fools right now? Trump lied yesterday. Oh, yeah, we're negotiating for peace right now. There's no negotiation. Here's Ghalibaf. Iran's Ghalibaf said, even now that we are negotiating with America, we are not negotiating with a friend. We are negotiating with an untrustworthy enemy who will definitely take action against us when they find the opportunity. The truth, a person can negotiate well only if they are also prepared for war. And both sides, Trump has said this too, if we're ready to go bomb Iran again, right? So he went on to say, if it becomes necessary to do this through war and fire, we will do it. We said that if they respond, we will definitely respond again. Lebanese army is being placed at the service of the Zionist regime so that it can ensure the security of the Zionist regime. Ghalibaf said to the United States, if they refuse to implement what was discussed, we're also prepared for war. We don't have English translation on this video, but yeah, and Trump said the same thing. So we're like this close to full-on war with Iran again. I guess we have to wait till they can war profiteer off of the markets and manipulating the global petroleum markets and so on. And so that's how these bastards roll. War profiteering. Spy chiefs in revolt over Trump demand for master list of every secret agent, fearing a catastrophic risk. CIA and FBI leaders are resisting Trump's mandate that intelligence agencies compile a master list of every U.S. spy and potential recruit amid fears it could endanger their own agents. The director of national intelligence, first under Tulsi Gabbard, PSYOP, Illuminati PSYOP queen, now under new director Bill Pilute. Literally, he's a real estate guy, has no experience in it, whatever. His job is to come be the hatchet man and send everything to the entity, right? Sure it is. He has, in recent months, spearheaded the Grand Spy List effort. The Office of Director of National Intelligence was created in the aftermath of 9/11 to foster better communications between intel agencies. It should be abolished, actually. Trump wants the master list because officials claim it could be used to better track foreign intelligence threats and avoid inadvertent conflicts when different agencies are working the same targets, according to the New York Times. This freaking clown. That's the top spy in America. We're in bad shape. We're in bad shape, to say the least. It should be abolished, actually. Unconstitutional after we were lied to about 9/11. Some good news here. U.S. murder rate approaches a record low. And so that is some good news. We're murdering plenty of people overseas, though. So don't you worry your evil little minds out there about the blood sacrifices to Moloch, because we're killing plenty of people. But here in America, according to FBI, can we even trust their data? The United States almost certainly had the lowest murder rate ever recorded in 2025, with the FBI having data back to 1960s. Let's see. Yeah, last year. So I guess that's good news, right? We have martial law all over the place, police state all over the place, but hey, at least you're not dead. So we have that to look forward to here now. U.S. murder rate approaches a record low. On to Supreme Court rulings here now. Let's hear from Trump. He's all upset about it. Some of them. The biggest and most consequential decision issued by the court by far is the Slaughter case, which overturned the very famous Humphreys executor rule. This whole concept of power has been fought over for nearly 100 years, going all the way back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, where a large slice of his power was taken away. He fought to regain it, even wanting to pack the court, but was unsuccessful in doing so. This decision gives a tremendous additional power back to the presidency where it belongs. It is an honor to be the sitting president who, after all these years, won this very important and hard-fought case. We had other good victories too, and we also had a birthright citizenship loss, which will work to correct in Congress. But the big slaughter was slaughter. The Republican Party was treated very unfairly by the United States Supreme Court. I think 2 of the decisions against Trump he appointed, and so the same old routine. It was you, asshole, Trump. It's just, no, it's the Democrats. It's the bad Republicans. No, it was you. You hired these assholes called the Supreme Court. Supreme Court loosens campaign finance laws, opening flood for midterm cash. American democracy is just absurd. They just buy off elections. It's utterly absurd. The Supreme Court earlier today struck down limits on coordinated spending between candidates and political parties. American democracy, literally bribes, payoffs, and corruption. A Masonic stage show. There you go. Absurd. Here's smart-ass Trump. It just doesn't hit anymore. I'm sorry. I would like to congratulate President Xi and the great country of China on their massive birthright citizenship win. Oh, he's so cute and funny. Not really. Not really. Supreme Court strikes down Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. There's that. Of course, it's widely reported the Trump administration sought to upend the historical understanding of the 14th Amendment, which has long been interpreted to extend birthright citizenship broadly. And there was one article, there's only like 30 countries in the world that allow it. And none of these, quote, progressive liberal European countries allow birthright citizenship. Where was it? Maybe I lost it, but something like only 30 countries. So yeah, we're suckers over here in America, democracy, but who cares, because it's they're just buying everybody off now. Official transcript from the U.S. Senate on May 30th, 1866. Senator Jacob Howard, who introduced the 14th Amendment. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners and aliens. And so they're saying the Supreme Court got it 100% wrong. Well, Trump hired these clowns in the first place, at least Barrett and Kavanaugh, ruling against Trump's executive order. This will, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons. It settles the great question of citizenship and removes all doubt as to what persons are or are not citizens of the United States. This has long been a great destrinum in the jurisprudence and legislation of this country. Supreme Court ruled different today. British tourism schemes exploit our immigration laws and often violate our criminal laws. The Department of Justice will prioritize the prosecutions of birth tourism schemes across the country. Actors seeking to exploit loopholes to obtain automatic citizenship for their children pose a national security threat and will be brought to justice. That's the Justice Department. So, yeah, they're saying they're going to still try to enforce it outside of this Supreme Court ruling, trying to pass legislation through the MK Ultra Congress. Good luck with that. Supreme Court upholds state bans on transgender athletes in girls and women's sports. Supreme Court ruled earlier today that states can prohibit transgender athletes from competing on girls and women's sports teams, a decision that delivers the latest setback for transgender rights. In two of the most closely watched cases of this term, the Supreme Court upheld laws from West Virginia and Idaho that restrict transgender athletes' participation in school sports. The cases are known as West Virginia versus BPJ and Little versus Hecox. Justice Kavanaugh authored the opinion for the majority, writing that under Title IX, the landmark law that requires equal opportunity in sports and the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause, schools can base eligibility for women and girls sports teams on biological sex. He's not a biologist. Anyhow, that seems kind of like a positive ruling, but they're all MK Ultra. We're gonna get Legal Man's take on this, but first, who's this Bernetta Morello? She's a reporter out there. She says, "We're not getting voter ID. Your country gets to be invaded by people that hate you. You're not getting mass deportations. We're getting a war with Iran, and mail-in ballots for federal elections can be counted weeks after Election Day. Vote for Republicans this November so we can keep the momentum going." Again, the government is an organized crime syndicate. And so vote for a Republican, vote for a Democrat, vote for a man wearing a clown nose, vote for Marco Rubio wearing literal clown shoes that are too big for him and he's too embarrassed to tell Trump or scared or whatever the problem is. But yeah, literally mentally ill MK Ultra Congress and probably much of the government at this point as well. Yeah, vote Republican this November. No, actually, Republicans are going to lose the midterms very badly here now. And then we're going to go through 2 years of bogus Trump impeachments. So that should be fun. And the Red Scare of the commies are coming back with the Democrat Socialists now poised to win, they tell us. What's Legal Man's take on some of these rulings? I like the way he puts it. First one here. And even writes it's schizophrenic for them, right? Because they're all whacked out of their cotton picking minds. Legal Man says, I'm seeing endless posts now about how the Supreme Me Court RT betrayed did ooze on much birthright citizenship. And we now need to spend years getting a constitutional amendment to fix this. LOL, dude. This place will be cooked by the third worlders long before that will ever happen. The absurdity of all this cracks me up. Literally nothing wakes people up the way the system is set up to screw you. No matter how many times it happens, the fools just keep excusing the system. Nobody, and I mean nobody, would ever agree to settle issues for 350 million people under this asinine court system. And if you think a group of people who just fought a war or for independence agree to this situation, then you are one of the most brainwashed people to ever walk this planet. A classic take there from Legal Man. I think he put up one other one that we'll read through here on today's Supreme Court rulings. The next take here from Legal Man. We've had him on the show twice too, by the way. I need to probably try to work to get him back on the show. He's a very, very great guest. They're a star of a Jones Plantation film as well. He says, look, this entire birthright citizenship issue is simple. If the language in the 14th Amendment is so ambiguous and uncertain that it can be interpreted to mean two totally different and opposite things by justices on the court in the same case with the same facts, then the language is unenforceable. And he capitalized that to make the point. Unenforceable. In the law, it's called void for vagueness. It's impossible for the amendment to have been properly ratified because nobody knew and agreed to what it meant by definition. People can either grasp this fundamental point or they can't. Huh? But I don't see anyone, including any lawyers or justices, raising this issue. But it's just right there. And the reason they don't raise it is because it exposes the fundamental foundational problem with the entire document. Nobody agreed to what it means or says. It isn't a legitimate legal document. It's talking about the Constitution there. And I would have to agree with them. I concur, Legal Man. All right, where are we at? So that was about it. I guess we're still chasing election integrity. There's cases, I believe, in Arizona. I forget the other states, but somehow, some way, even with electronic voting machine, all the BS, right? Unlimited funding now, right? It's democracy. This next election's the most important. Bullshit. It's all rigged up one side, down the other. Unlimited funding, electronic voting machines, illegal voting, ballot harvesting, gerrymandering. It's American democracy. Your vote matters. No, it's a giant con screw job racketeering operation known as your U.S. government. Is exactly what's going on here. More about that. Hey, let's hear from some of the MK Ultra hearings today. Let's take a look, and then we have some comments. But here's old Paula. What the heck's her name? Paulina Luna. She was heading up the effort here to further expose MK Ultra. Here's a clip from her opening statements at the hearings today.
This hearing is about the crimes committed by the Central Intelligence Agency against the American citizens and the decades of secrecy used to conceal them. The American people deserve a complete and truthful record. The victims and their families deserve acknowledgement, and this Congress has a constitutional obligation to ensure that full declassification is not delayed any longer. Project MKUltra was not a policy failure or an overzealous program that got out of hand. It was a deliberate, systematic governmental operation that subjected American citizens, prisoners, hospital patients, veterans, ordinary people to LSD, electroshock, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, psychological torture without their knowledge or consent. This went on for 20 years on American soil, funded by American taxpayer dollars and authorized by the very top of U.S. intelligence apparatus. And this program, when it did end, the men who ran it did not cooperate with investigators.
It went on for way longer than that, and it's still going on today. It looks like they're now MK Ultraing members of Congress.
They did not come forward. They committed another crime. They destroyed evidence. The documents this task force has reviewed are unambiguous. In January 1973, the director of the CIA, Richard Helms, prepared to leave office. He personally ordered the destruction of MKUltra records. The CIA official document in writing states, over my stated objectives, the MKUltra files were destroyed by the order of DCI Mr. Helms shortly before his departure from office. A separate internal account confirms that Helms telephoned Dr. Gottlieb directly and instructed him to destroy, quote, all files pertaining to drug research and associated activities. Gottlieb compiled 4 people, spent an entire day tearing, burning down 152 files. Then Gottlieb had his personal papers destroyed by his secretary before he retired. The head of the CIA-owned records center protested the destruction in writing, but he was overruled. That is obstruction of justice. That is criminal destruction of federal records, and neither individuals were ever charged with a crime for it. Helms received a $2,000 fine for lying to Congress about an unrelated matter and collected his government pension until he died. Gottlieb retired in rural Virginia.
He received a $2,000 fine for lying and then continued to collect his government paycheck.
And wrote poetry. No one went to prison. No victim was ever formally compensated by the government for the harm that they caused. By 1975, the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission had already established through sworn testimony and the surviving 1963 Inspector General report that MKUltra existed and that the CIA had run a program of human experimentation on unwitting Americans. The scope and detail of what we know today is largely because of an accident. In 1977, an archivist diligently complying with a FOIA request discovered 7 boxes of MKUltra financial records that had been misfiled and escaped the bonfire. Those 7 boxes included the names of institutions, the name of subprojects, the researchers who participated, the specific operation that the CIA had funded, and without them, the vast majority of MKUltra would only be a rumor, just as Helms and Gottlieb intended. Those 7 boxes revealed that MKUltra comprised at least 149 subprojects, operated across more than 80 institutions, and involved 185 non-government researchers. They revealed that the CIA covertly contributed $375,000 to a hospital research wing, which was approved directly by DCI Alan Dulles, which Richard Helms concurrence, so the agency could use unwitting patients as experimental subjects in what their own documents called a hospital safe house. The CIA's Inspector General said in 1963 his classified report concluded that the program had exceeded the agency's legal chapter, and covert testing on unwitting subjects placed the rights and interests of U.S. citizens in jeopardy. The program ran for a decade that we know of, and they ignored their own watchdog. Let me be clear what I believe that we are dealing with here. Administering drugs to people without their knowledge or consent, subjecting humans to psychological torture, and using prisoners and hospital patients as non-consenting research subjects. These are crimes against humanity. The Central Intelligence Agency committed them, and then the director of
They're doing that today, right now.
the CIA was ordering the destruction of evidence. Today we will hear from two witnesses who have spent years unraveling the cover-up that our government ordered. Stephen Kinzer documented the life and crimes of Sidney Gottlieb in his book, Prisoner of Chief, and Tom O'Neill spent over 20 years investigating what the CIA buried and what they obscured that, in my mind, constitute some of the worst notorious crimes against humanity in the 20th century. Their persistence in the research in this hearing is possible simply because they are patriots. The American people deserve the complete record. The victims and their families deserve acknowledgement, accountability, and justice. And this Congress has a constitutional obligation to make sure that the CIA never does this again. With that, I'm going to be opening up first questions, and I'll hold my questions to the end to Representative Burleson. But before I do pass it, I did want to just note, a few weeks ago, we did receive reports. There's some back and forth regarding the CIA and ODNI pertaining to new MKUltra boxes that were discovered. Myself and Representative Burleson did go down to Langley. We did meet with the CIA, and the CIA is currently in the process of declassifying newly found documentation, although the documents, and I feel comfortable enough to share it here, pertain specifically to a forgery program that was being housed under MKUltra. So as soon as those
There's more. Operation Paperclip, Nazi scientists. Yeah, they're still doing it today.
for you, sir. Operation Paperclip brought over 1,600 German scientists into the United States government after World War II, including individuals who had conducted human experimentation in concentration camps. The CIA and military were aware of their backgrounds and recruited them anyways. In your research, did you find direct documentation between Paperclip scientists and the development of MKUltra's experimental protocols, specifically the use of mescaline, hypnosis, and sensory deprivation, which were techniques also documented at Dachau?
Absolutely. Kurt Blome, who was the chief of biological weapons development for the Nazi government, came to work for the CIA. So did Walter Schreiber, who was the Surgeon General of the Nazi Army. I can just tell a brief story. When I was researching my book, I found what I think might be the first secret CIA prison or black site. It's a nice chalet in Germany. And the guy who now owns it took me into the basement. He said these were the cells where the MKUltra officers, working side by side with Nazis, carried out those gruesome experiments, which were actually just continuations of the experiments that those Nazis had been conducting just a few years earlier right down the road.
Just for timeline and clarification, these experiments were happening after the Nuremberg trials, correct? So the CIA would have known that these were crimes against humanity.
I looked for an episode in which the Nuremberg doctrines were posted on the wall in some MKUltra or CIA office, and I was never able to find any indication that those Nuremberg principles ever were even consulted, much less obeyed.
Yeah, take your miracles for public health.
Is it, in your expert opinion, that Jack Ruby and Manson were assets of the intelligence agencies specifically pertaining to MKUltra? Were they MKUltra victims?
Yeah, theoretically, Manson, I've never been able to prove absolutely. Jack Ruby, I believe, this is something else. The Warren Commission investigation, on the Warren Commission was Alan Dulles, the former CIA director, who authorized and ran MK Ultra until he was fired by President Kennedy. The liaison to the committee for the CIA, who handled the information coming from the CIA back and forth to the Warren Commission, was Richard Helms, who was a direct supervisor of Jolly West. They knew who West was. They knew that what West was capable of and what they had paid him to do and what he had reported to them that he could do, including inducing mental disorders in people. That was never disclosed to the commission as far as anyone knows. So I believe that West was put in there to keep Jack Ruby from telling his story.
Wow. In closing, I just want to thank you all for being here today, and we will be following up, Dr. Kinzer, on your request.
Inducing mental illness. That's all of Congress. I'll post the full hearing, a link on Weaponized News Substack channel for those interested. I'm sure you can find it out there as well. I have the link right from the House Oversight Committee, though. That may help you. It's all over the mainstream today. Yeah, those are the big highlights, really. It's ongoing here now. But Emma Catherine, she's everybody should go follow Emma Catherine, the Emma entrepreneur is how I think Emmapreneur is her account name. Anyway, everybody should go follow her. She does great work. She has a show interviewing. I'll read what she says here first. The MK Ultra hearings were a great fail as speculated. Zero actual witnesses, even though there are thousands publicly sharing their testimony, hundreds who have been interviewed on my podcast alone. That's true. Who would have accepted an invitation immediately. It is beyond me why the key witnesses invited to testify were journalists who clearly have never spoken to a single victim in their decorated careers as researchers of subject matter largely unrelated to the topic of trauma-based mind control, behavioral modification programs, MK Ultra. There was even copious dialogue about implanted and false memories, which have been proven to be completely false. MK Ultra functions off torturing a human being, a child, until they disassociate and form multiple personalities, which can be programmed through sophisticated and scientific means that have been sophisticated and industrialized over the many decades since these programs surfaced and have been and remain hidden. MK Ultra never ended. It is still happening today, indeed. I have met survivors of these programs who are teenagers. The programs are alive and well and function better than they ever have, hence why they continue to gaslight all of us into believing they ended and are in the past tense. We cannot let this shit fly. Children today, more than ever before in history, are being used in these programs. They walk among us and go to school unaware of their abuse. Human slavery doesn't require locks and chains anymore. It requires a fractured mind through traumas and horrors that go beyond the human imagination can even comprehend. There are millions of adults we see and walk by daily who are programmed through mind control. Some were even hosting the hearing today. Programmed and undetached and undetectable mind control slaves walk among us, and they want you to think it's a conspiracy, and it's not. The programs are still happening today, right now, and they are going, and they aren't going to do anything about it. So we have to. Who's with me? What's stopping us from forming our own committees? Indeed, they're from Emma Catherine. Everybody should go follow her and check out If You Can Handle It, because it's freaking, some of her shows and the testimonies of the victims, it's just like, I can't even handle it anymore, man. When you hear about the abuse that they took from SRA to MK Ultra, government programs ongoing here now. Ongoing. And in that post, you just post thread after thread, or what you do, like 5 or 6 interviews of the victim. Where are the victims? I don't know. Emma Catherine's interviewing them. Why not you, Congress? Oh, it's a limited hangout type of operation. I see. So we'll continue to cover MK Ultra hearings as they develop there in Congress. Maybe some victims can go testify, the actual victims today. Oh, the Department of Homeland Security is cracking down here. Illegal alien child sex traffickers brought to justice. And they always throw you some patsy, and they're doing the bad stuff, right? But I mean, come on. These are low-level criminals compared to the masterminds, Epstein co-conspirators running these operations.
New this morning, 2 men were just sentenced to time in federal prison after they brought an orphan girl into the U.S. and sex trafficked her across state lines. Federal authorities say the victim came illegally from Venezuela, and those men committed these acts in Kentucky and right here in San Antonio. Ken's 5's Earl Sotomayor joins us live. Earl, the new details in this case paint a pretty grim picture.
Audrey, good morning. Documents reveal Giannis Ramirez Fernandez was in an actual relationship with the girl who was living with her adopted parents in Colombia when he then brought her to the U.S. in late 2022. So a year later, another documented immigrant, Nelson Perez Martinez, also from Venezuela, joined Ramirez Fernandez, and the two trafficked the child in Kentucky and San Antonio. Investigators later learned the child was trafficked across at least 6 different motels in July of 2024. An undercover SAPD officer acting as a customer caught them in the act at a Studio 6 motel on Pasture Court in the medical center. Perez Martinez was sentenced to 20 years for his crimes on multiple charges, and Ramirez Fernandez, he has to serve 12 and a half years in prison. Reporting live.
So that's good. They got the illegal alien child sex traffickers. That's low-hanging fruit compared to this giant corrupt evil system. Catholic Church now, San Francisco Archdiocese had to pay $395 million in child sex abuse settlement. Settlement amount and scope: the Archdiocese of San Francisco agreed to pay $395 million to resolve more than approximately 530 lawsuits from survivors alleging child sex abuse by clergy members. Part of the settlement, they had to the Catholic Church presented a 14-point plan for systemic change to prevent future abuse, enhance protections, and improve accountability. Scale relative to other dioceses. This is a major settlement, though smaller than the Archdiocese of Los Angeles record $880 million deal in 2024. And that's out of the Catholic Church. This fits into the long-running U.S. Catholic Church clergy abuse scandal involving cover-ups, multiple diocese bankruptcies, and large payouts nationwide. And with some of these preachers, what are they, priests right out of the Catholic Church, they'd get busted. They would know they're straight-on child molesters, right? That's their thing. And instead of busting them, kicking them out, turning them into law enforcement. They just send them on to a remote island and they go on to continue the child molestation. Never punishing them or saying it's wrong. They're just like, go over there and get those kids because, you know, they're third worlders. Who really cares? And so that's happened in many of these reported cases of abuse, cover-ups by the Catholic Church. This settlement reflects continued legal pressure from survivor advocacy, extended statutes of limitation, and bankruptcy proceedings as a resolution mechanism for dioceses facing massive liabilities. Stop molesting the kids. They can't stop molesting the kids. Warren Buffett pausing Gates Foundation donations until Epstein review is over. Once upon a time, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates were the best of buddies. They traveled together, played bridge, talked about killing everybody. Oh, I added that part, sorry. Played bridge together, talked on the phone every week, and like two people worth a combined $250 billion plus picked up stunt shifts at Dairy Queen. And so it's all funny. They're all insider traders. Everything's rigged. Malthusian eugenicists. It's all so cute and funny, though, really. But now Warren Buffett has backed away from his mid-year donation to the depopulation efforts of the Gates Foundation for Children's Global Health. Buffett donated $48 billion to the Gates Foundation between 2006 and 2025. And so it's not out of his great philanthropic charitable heart he gives this money. It's part of money laundering and tax evasion. It's all legal, though. So thank your MK Ultra Congress for passing those laws. So very sad for the Gates Foundation here now publicly being shunned by Warren Buffett of the very large donations, at least for now. At least for right now, well, Bill Gates is still pretty hot. Longtime Clinton aide walks back claim former president visited Epstein's island. A longtime aide to Bill Clinton walked back a prior claim that the former president visited Epstein's island, according to Nancy Mace, who questioned him. Doug Band, the former Clinton aide, is the 17th person to testify behind closed doors as part of the House Oversight's sprawling probe into Epstein orbit. That's what they say in this article out of CNN. And how previous investigations were handled. The panel sought Brand's voluntary testimony after Clinton testified before the committee in February. The former president told lawmakers at the time that Band worked for him for years and that the aide knew both Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the late sex offender's accomplice. In 2020, Band told Vanity Fair that Clinton visited Epstein's island in 2003. In February, however, Clinton testified that he was never on Epstein's island. And earlier today, Band amended his previous assertion during his own interview with the panel to Nancy Mace. Just make up whatever lie whenever it's convenient. It's Congress. They're all mind control, mentally ill idiots anyway. So what's the point, right? Yeah, there you go. Alleged Epstein victim and Trump accuser living in fear of retaliation relatives say. Report out of the UK Guardian. A woman known as Jane Doe 4, she can't even come out publicly, in the Epstein files, seeking retribution from powerful people. Excuse me. Epstein files, known as Jane Doe number 4, is says she's staying off the grid in this report and lives in fear of retaliation from the Trump administration amid escalating controversies over its handling of her case, according to a family member. The Epstein files cover-up continues. All right, we're past the hour mark. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button, push the like, smash that like button. Give me the share. Share this independent news reporting. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself a holograph sticker over there. We have the holograph sticker, the white sticker, and the clear background sticker. We have baseball caps, t-shirts, coffee mugs, shot glasses. This show may induce heavy bouts of drinking. We did have some good news. The murder rate's down, right? Some good news there. And standing room only on the National Mall for America 250. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. Go check out the shop. We got some books over there as well. Weaponizednews.com/shop. We take donations. Buy me a coffee. Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App links are all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack channel. We give everything away free. We're streaming live there now. You'll get the full show, summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack. Nothing's beyond the paywall. Everything's free. Show your support for independent reporting and analysis brought to you 5 days a week, broadcasting live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern Time, Weaponized News. Weaponizednews.com/shop. I do appreciate all of the patrons out there, the donors, and the paid subscribers and free subscribers as well. You're all appreciated. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button any which way you choose to help spread the word about this broadcast is much appreciated. Thank you very much for your attention to that matter. All right, welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Tuesday, June 30th, 2026 edition. Let's take a look now, and maybe some good news. I don't know. I don't trust anything the lying criminal government says or does, and I would advise you not to either for your own mental and physical health and financial health for that matter. Maybe this is a good thing. Yeah, maybe. President Trump yesterday lowers the cost of living by promoting the freedom to fix. They have a funny way of lowering the cost of living by the freedom to fix. So yesterday, Trump signed a presidential memorandum expanding America's freedom to fix their own vehicles. Isn't it good of these tyrannical bastards, these oligarchs, and working with the government to give us the right to work on our own property? Aren't they great saviors of freedom? The memorandum directs the administrator of the EPA to issue guidance clarifying what actions individuals may take to fix their own vehicles' emission systems consistent with the Clean Air Act. And so that's very good of them. They're running the smog racket here in California for sure. You have to get your vehicle smogged every 2 years, even if it's like brand new and never had an issue. So you have the right, maybe now. Nah, they'll still come after you. Be careful working on your own exhaust system. I remember when I was a kid, I can't even get into the story. We got too much news. But I remember putting, if you guys, anybody ever was gearheads out there putting headers on as your exhaust system. Anyhow, I remember doing that, working on a friend's truck when we were in high school, and it was fun stuff. I'm sure it would not pass smog here in California. Anyhow, continuing here, gold set for the worst quarterly loss in 13 years on hawkish Fed stance. And so, yeah, I forget who, but the Fed was saying, yeah, how are we going to tame this inflation? Well, obviously raise interest rates. And so gold eased on Tuesday. Where are we at actually in the live trading? Let me just check for you here now. We'll give you an update as it is continually traded overseas now as U.S. markets have closed. Yeah, overseas it's trading below 4,000 at 3,982, and silver at $48.17, and Bitcoin way down as well, 58,000. So all of those indicators way down, and the Dow Jones is way up. So that's all that really matters as the Epstein co-conspirators continue to walk free. The sports ball, it's rigged. Sorry to report to you here now. Former NBA players Malik Beasley and Ed Davis indicted in gambling probe. Let's watch this report out of NBC News. But yeah, your sports ball, it's rigged.
Breaking news out of the NBA. Former players Malik Beasley and Ed Davis, along with 4 others, have been indicted on federal sports gambling charges. Prosecutors say in 2024, while Beasley was playing for the Milwaukee Bucks, he was taking bribes to manipulate his performance. They say Davis would then place bets on the outcome of the games. So far, the defendants have not commented. National law enforcement and intelligence...
And they legalize gambling all over the place. It's just... what the hell, man?
Correspondent Tom Winter joins me now. So, Tom, tell us more about this new indictment and the charges that Beasley and Davis are now facing.
Right. I think a lot of people are wondering, hey, is this tied to the other NBA gambling cases and that illegal poker betting scheme that's been alleged? This is not part of that, though there's a lot of similarities between the two, and there's some investigative avenues here that I think are very common among all of the cases. And basically, it's just as you laid out here, Vicky. This is a case where an individual would either overperform or underperform. In this case, the allegation is that it's Beasley. He would pass that information to an intermediary, that would be Davis, and then these other individuals would place bets knowing potentially what the outcome would be. Not in all circumstances do these bets always pay off, but here it was definitely profitable for these individuals. They've been charged with that conduct, and that's really where the case is. You can imagine if you were to say today, well, Tom Winter, will you do 2 or 4 live reports? I can obviously change the outcome of that. And so in this case, that's what prosecutors allege.
And do we have any sense of how much time they might face if they are convicted?
Yes, you're up to 20 years here because you have the bribery component of this. And that's what's been alleged, that Beasley was bribed by these individuals in order to carry that out, plus the illegal gambling. Once you put a bribery into play, the potential penalties here could be quite significant. Could we get some cooperators in this case? That's something that we'll continue to watch throughout the week as these individuals get paraded before a federal judge after obviously this federal grand jury led to an indictment.
So these are serious charges. Speaking of cooperators, so we've got former NBA player Damon Jones, who pleaded guilty in April. That was a gambling sweep. That also led to the arrest of more than 30 people. Remind us the details of that case.
Yeah, that case and some of those cases are still ongoing. We do expect additional guilty pleas tied to those NBA gambling cases and the illegal poker betting schemes. So we're going to be watching all of that, Vicky, very closely here in the coming couple of months.
But you said these two are not connected.
They are entirely separate cases, even if some of the investigative avenues and patterns of behavior are some things that we've...
They're going to rat. They're going to rat, and yeah, your sports ball's rigged. Sorry to report to you here now. The United States has been in debt almost every single day of its existence. This is history with Jacob, post on the X. There was exactly one exception, and it barely lasted 2 years. The man behind it was Andrew Jackson, who halted debt with a fury. He called it a national curse and meant it. When he took office in 1829, the country owed more than $58 million, a staggering sum at that time. Jackson set out to wipe it to zero. He did it the hard way. He slashed spending, vetoed infrastructure projects, killed the national bank, and sold off enormous tracts of federal land in the West. There was no income tax then either. It would not exist for another 80 years. Every dollar came from tariffs and land sales, and stop spending like a drunken Hegseth. On January 1st, 1835, it was done. For the first and only time in American history, the national debt stood at zero. Dan Bongino, how he makes a zero. Illuminati columns. You make a zero like that, or like this. That's how the feds make a zero. Anyhow, unfortunately, the land boom that helped him clear the debt turned out to be a bubble. When he tried to cool it by requiring gold and silver for federal land, credit seized up, banks collapsed, and the country fell into the panic of 1837. The government was borrowing again almost immediately. It has never been debt-free since. Not once, excuse me, in nearly 200 years. So, of course, Andrew Jackson famously killed the central bank. And that's what a real America First president would do. Wink, MAGA, wink, Trump. All frauds, all criminals. Trump's financial disclosure says he made about $635 million in royalties from his meme coin. That's a report out of Reuters. And so MAGA loves being lied to, conned, ripped off, stolen from, having treason committed against us. Name the crime, and MAGA loves all these abuses put forth upon the American people by Trump. The latest one, $635 million in royalties from his meme coin. And we've covered how investors in it got rugged and lost all their funds. Trump's net worth has nearly tripled in his second term, reaching $6.5 billion. It should all be seized due to corruption and given to the veterans that he's injured and with PTSD and injuries and the rest of it from his illegal foreign wars of aggression. Of course, that'll never happen.
$2 years into term two, look what happens. His net worth goes from $2.3 billion to $6.5 billion. All of this is crypto in one form or another. He has become the crypto king, even though during Trump 1.0, he was against crypto. He thought crypto was kind of a scam, which it kind of is, as we know. So where did the money come from? He had $4 billion, he and his family, of profits. $3 billion of it.
He thought it was a kind of a scam, which it is kind of, and yeah, here he is running that scam on idiot MAGA investors.
Came from crypto, and I will tell you, there are so many transactions here, so many structures. It made my head hurt even trying to understand it. But just to give you an example, he took Trump Media, which is the company he started to create Truth Social, and it raised a bunch of money from investors, and he went out and bought a whole bunch of crypto with that. He sold meme coins. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute, but remember the dollar Trump, dollar Melania coins, all that contributed profit. So crypto all the way. Made some money from finance. This is Jared raising all of his money from the Middle East and the profits that were anticipated from it. And then there were also some benefits he got. For example, he raised the admission fee at Mar-a-Lago from $100,000 to $1 million. The money he took from the law firms and the other companies as part of his lawsuit campaign, the Qatari jet. But crypto is really what dominates the $3 billion that he added to his net worth.
So let's talk about that meme coin, because so much of this money is coming from crypto. You're calling it here a ripoff. Can you explain exactly what the meme coin is and why you say it's a ripoff?
Well, explaining exactly would probably take me most of the remaining 4 hours that you have this morning, but because it's really complicated. But generally speaking, what he did was he created something called the dollar Trump coin, and you'll also remember there was a dollar Melania coin a little bit later. It is a coin that means nothing. It is like buying a pet rock, except you don't even get a rock. It has no value. It has no trading value. It's not used in commerce, nothing. They sold them initially at $7. It went all the way up to $45. Not surprisingly, it crashed. So there have been found to be 45 what are called whale wallets, huge buyers of this stuff early on in the process. Then as crypto went up, these whales, and it could include Trump, but we don't even know who it includes. It could include a lot of foreigners, people who are tipped off.
Those are the pumpers.
They made $1.2 billion. Trump, we know, made about $600 million in trading fees and so forth on this. But who lost? Who lost were 2 million innocent Americans who bought this thing.
MAGA, they love being conned, lied to, ripped off.
Because they thought Trump was great or whatever. They lost $4.3 billion by buying up here and now owning something that is worth less than.
There you go. Vote for Republicans in November. The big short dude, Michael Burry, disclosed new short positions against NVIDIA, Tesla, Caterpillar, and Applied Materials. Anthropic or I can't even say it how Ruckus says it. He says it different. Anthropic or Anthropic, however you say their name. I think I'm saying it wrong, right? Anyhow, Anthropic launches AI drug discovery program. I'm sure nothing will go wrong there. U.S. stocks are on track for their strongest quarter in years, with the S&P 500 up 14% and the NASDAQ up 20%, both marking their best quarterly gain since 2020, while the Dow has climbed 13% for its strongest quarter since late 2022. So don't be concerned that they're continually running MK Ultra mind control programs, and it certainly appears Congress is under the influence of mind control. Don't be concerned about that, because pay attention to the Dow, a la Pam Bondi. Apollo chief economist Slock says heavy debt issued by AI hyperscalers is pulling investor demand away from U.S. treasuries. I don't know how good of an idea that is. Apple's Tim Cook has said he has never seen anything like this surge in memory and storage costs in the last 40 years. Oh, the price fixing. Who would have known? Who would have thunk it? Samsung, SK Heat, Hynix, and Micron were sued in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, where 17 plaintiffs accused the three memory makers of illegally coordinating to restrict DRAM supply and inflate prices. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but that's what they're accused of, and they're probably doing it, i.e. oligopoly, price fixing. It's illegal. It's just up to the powers that be to enforce the law. Trump said, I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up. This character, the secretary, I guess we'll play a short clip here. They're going to come after retail gas vendors as if the price gouging is not at the production manufacturer level of the Rockefeller oil oligarchs.
We've got a chart of how quickly the prices went up and how they followed crude, and we're going to hold them accountable on the other side. President Trump talked about it the past week. He had a very powerful Truth Social yesterday. So I would encourage all the gasoline retailers. Some of them are owned by big oil, some are independent, some are international convenience chains. I would encourage them to be good actors, especially in the 250th anniversary, because we're watching.
For America 250, take a loss. We're watching you. These freaking guys, man. This is the post he was talking about from Trump. Gasoline retailers must get their prices down immediately. They're too high. Where you been since the Iran war started, bro? They're too high, considering that oil is now at $68 a barrel and heading south. The retailers must quickly react to the statement and do what they know is right. Drop your price for our great American people. So I can call them in meme coins. No, I added that. There will be no gouging. It's already happened, bro, which is totally illegal. It's already happened. We can't afford groceries out here. If the retailers don't do this, big problems lie ahead. Start targeting around the $2.50 a gallon number, and California should stop charging such heavy taxes on gasoline. Soon, the tax will be higher than the product itself, and the United States will not stand for it, nor will the people of California, who are being abused by these ridiculous taxes and by their own government. I agree with that. But where you been, Trump, this entire time? You'd be crying at the pump. This Alaska Village's gas, $8.44 before the Iran war. So obviously in a remote location here now, but in Hopper Bay, off the shore of Bering Sea, far from Alaska's road system, fuel for Joe's home heating stove costs $9.24 a gallon, and unleaded gas costs $8.44. So if you're in a remote location, obviously the price of everything is going to increase, and we see it there illustrated through the price of a gallon of gasoline. And then on to AAA national average. Did it move? Yeah, it went down a penny from yesterday. According to AAA national average for the price of a gallon of gasoline, it's $3.84, still extremely high across the nation. You see us, they're killing us here in California. Why I walk mostly these days. We're still well above $4. We're well above $5 in California here now. Analysts cut 2026 oil price forecast for the first time since the Iran war began. Analysts have lowered their 2026 oil price outlook for the first time since the Iran war began, ending a streak of 5 consecutive monthly increases. The monthly survey of 31 economists and analysts now expects Brent crude to average $84.50 per barrel in 2026, down from last month's average forecast of $90.44. U.S. crude is projected to average $79.49 per barrel, compared with May's estimates of $84.63. These updates represent a drop of more than 6% compared with May's projections. On average, analysts expect Brent to decline from around $84 in the third quarter of 2026 to about $79 in the fourth quarter, before easing in the mid 70s by mid 2027, according to the survey. That's a report out of Reuters, and that's assuming a whole heck of a lot. Like the agenda of oil infrastructure destruction around the world doesn't continue. Like, I don't know what these analysts, where they're getting their data, but it seems like they need a bigger geopolitical picture here now. Let's hope it stays there. I don't see how it can, as they're engineering energy shortages and famine by design per agenda. So what is up with the Strait of Hormuz here now? According to tankertrackers.com, Iran has exported 50 million barrels of crude oil since the U.S. imposed the blockade. Since the U.S. imposed blockade was lifted 2 weeks ago, this equates to 1.66 million barrels per day for June 2026. Again, we don't, allegedly, America here, we don't even get any oil from the Strait of Hormuz. So where you been? They've been price gouging us this entire time. Japanese yen plummets to a nearly 40-year low against the U.S. dollar. The Japanese yen has plunged to its weakest level against the U.S. dollar since December 1986, breaching the 162 mark as widening interest rate differentials, regional geopolitical shocks, and fiscal expansion plans accelerate capital outflows despite intervention threats. The World Bank plans to end lending to China by 2031, capping annual loans at $2 billion until then, according to the Financial Times. And a poster under that article said, meanwhile, China creates its own institutions, new development bank, Belt and Road Initiative, etc., and has become one of the largest global creditors to development in the world. Yeah. The EU is giving Ukraine $3.9 billion for advanced drone procurement, Vanderlei says. So the EU, these damn Nazis, they love killing themselves some Russians, let me tell you. 2 Ukrainian Flamingo missiles strike a Russian arms plant. Let's take a look at that video. They're now launching, that is Ukraine, via UK, EU, US, long-range strikes into Russia. Russia is effing pissed.
Фламинго нахуй! Пизда, сука! Пизда.
Some footage there of the Flamingo missiles striking a Russian arms manufacturing facility there in Volgograd. Local reports out of Ukraine say Ukrainian draft officers detained a single father, leaving his 5-year-old daughter alone. She reportedly spent the night with a kindergarten director. And there's video of a little girl crying. Ukrainian billionaire Vadim Yermolevy, who was sanctioned by Kiev in 2023 after a falling out with Zelensky's government, was seriously injured alongside members of his family after a bomb packed with metal fragments exploded in the lobby of of his luxury building in Monaco. So this dude, oligarch dude, billionaire, they targeted him there in Monaco. I believe it was the first ever terrorist attack there, they're claiming, if it even is a terrorist attack. The details are still coming out. He's actually a citizen of Cyprus because he paid the money. He renounced his Ukrainian citizenship a few years ago. And in this, a little bit more about him. It turns out, that's weird, huh? You can see it right there. Continuing. At the direction of U.S. Southern Command, the United States military continues offering support to the Venezuelan earthquake relief efforts. Today's update, a humanitarian assistance coordination center has been established and will coordinate and direct U.S. military support to Venezuelan relief efforts. Logistics surge. A U.S. Marine combat logistics company has arrived in the country, bringing medium-sized military transport trucks, highly mobile off-road vehicles, and military ambulance capability. Maritime support. USS Fort Lauderdale is berthed portside at the port of LaGuardia, providing vital assistance, distribution, and medical support to relief operations. USS Billings continues to provide vital offshore support. Airlift Lifeline established a forward arming and refueling point that enables rapid turnaround times for nearly a dozen rotary wing aircraft. That's a report, and we'll show the short clip here from our humanitarian efforts there by U.S. Central Command in Venezuela after the tragic earthquakes. So that's exciting. Is the U.S. military part of the trafficking operations? Probably factions of it are. Here's some video of them stacking the bodies, man. 50,000 people are reportedly still trapped beneath the rubble, and the U.S. stole their oil and gold. And so that's how we show our, we send them pallets of supplies, though. Here's a very horrific video stacking the caskets of the dead Venezuelans. Horrific scenes there out of Venezuela. And so they are building the Greater North America Project. Part of the Greater North America Project, turns out, is South America, i.e. the technocracy. And so here's a map out of DD Geopolitics. See, our friends took over there, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, and the holdouts are these damn communists in Brazil, or they could be full-on techno-fascists as well. I'm sure they're working on it. And then Guyana, Suriname, and Guyana Francesca there in the red. But yeah, we're nailing down the new world order here under full Zionist occupation. Here's who's this director of the Islamic Center in Buenos Aires, Musa, says, I have no doubt that imperialism and Zionism are working together on something for Latin America. We are all being educated for short-term thinking. Those who rule the world, within which I include the Zionist movement, think long-term. If you add up all these facts, the alarm bells should be going off in Argentina. I don't know what he's concerned about. I mean, Peter Thiel moved there with his family to go ahead and take over and implement technocracy for the greatest Zionist president in the world, according to his own statements, Millet. So I don't know why everybody's so concerned. Maybe we should be concerned about this back here in America, the constant call for war. Now, WARFORCE, they're rolling out of the Department of War. WARFORCE, according to post by Undersecretary Michael, WARFORCE is a call to action to recruit patriotic, forward deployed engineers eager to serve their country and the warfighter. The Department of War is partnering with, who are they partnering with? U.S. Office of Personnel Management and U.S. Tech Force Initiative to execute the key tenets of the department's AI acceleration strategy and to continue the modernization of our enterprise. With the right talent embedded across the joint force, we will ensure that America's military remains technologically dominant for generations to come. Sounds very exciting there. Here it is, WARFORCE. WARFORCE 250, patriotic engineers wanted, Department of War X, OPM. And you could put a box on your head and have that smiley face as well. And so they're doing their damnedest to bring Skynet here now on live with autonomous weaponized systems. Now recruiting. Another meme here. Did we have two? They posted two. Did I even, let's see. Did I even show the other goofy one? With a computer head on it. Here's the other goofy meme of the day out of the, but none of this is goofy. It's all deadly serious. Here it is, the other one. You too can be a wirehead working for the Department of War there. Now you see. Engineers wanted for America's most critical missions. Join the force. And so we need somebody to run Skynet until it becomes self-aware and autonomous and wipes us all out. All the Terminator documentaries. So if you're interested there, now you can go apply at forward deployed engineer at usjobs.gov. Here you go. Go work on genociding people with computers. It's fun for one and all. There, do your patriotic duty. Building on the ongoing government-wide tech force hiring initiative, the new WARFORCE effort announced today will emphasize attracting AI talent, and a defense official told Breaking Defense, that's who this article's by, seeking an infusion of fresh tech talent. The Pentagon and the Office of Personnel Management are launching a program they're calling WARFORCE to hire hundreds of, quote, exceptional software engineers for 2-year stints in the Defense Department. I don't know why they don't change it to the War Department. The two agencies announced this morning. WARFORCE builds on the government-wide Tech Force program, which seeks to hire at least 1,000, quote, elite engineers with no conscience, because you'll be working on these autonomous weaponized systems that will go on to kill you and your family. So I hope it pays well. Continuing here, elite engineers for 2-year tours with a variety of agencies, including the War Department. Yeah, not much else from this. Specifics on WARFORCE are still sparse, but it is supposed to be similar to the existing Tech Force program announced last December and still ramping up, which offers $150,000 to $200,000 per year for an initial 2-year term. After the Tech Force hires, many may either remain in federal service or go into the private sector. The revolving door, as per usual, there. Never-ending stream of corruption in our revolving door system. So get a bunch of kills under your belt working for the war force, and then go ahead into the private sector and take that knowledge with you. Again, apply at forward deployed engineer right here. There you go. WARFORCE. Very attractive, I suppose, for psychopaths. All right, where are we at here? The NDAA has other stuff besides the aardvark land in it. Beyond the aardvark land Palestinian-related proposals, the House Rules Committee also approved floor votes on several other foreign policy amendments in the 2027 NDAA. In regards to Ukraine, Eli Crane's, Representative Eli Crane's amendment would prohibit funds for the Ukrainian Security Assistance Program while preserving funding for security at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. Taiwan, several amendments would expand U.S.-Taiwan defense cooperation by reaffirming U.S. arms sales under the Taiwan Relations Act, establishing a strategic defense technology partnership, authorizing a joint program to develop drones and counter-drone systems, directing the Pentagon to develop a strategy with Five Eyes partners to strengthen Taiwan cyber defenses, and requiring a plan to include Taiwan in the 2028 rim of the Pacific Naval Exercise. That's not pissing China off at all. They won at the Supreme Court, according to Trump today. So Africa, Rep. Stacey Plaskin's amendment would redirect $1 million within the State Department budget to support efforts aimed at countering Russian and Chinese influence across Africa. Feels like we kind of already lost that one. In the Middle East, Representative Chip Roy's amendment would prohibit funds appropriated by the bill from being used for the Middle East Partnership Initiative, a State Department program that funds civil society governance, economic, and educational projects across the region. There's a report out of Drop Site News. And then this extremely concerning report here out of the Cradle. U.S. Congress blocks attempt to strike down U.S. aardvark land military integration. Representatives Massey, Ro have also been pushing for a vote to cut the billions in military aid to aardvark land. And Bibi keeps saying, well, we're going to get off the U.S. welfare. Yeah, because they're going to merge and become one per 2027 NDAA. The U.S. Congress blocked Ro and Massey's efforts to secure a vote to prevent plans to integrate Washington and Tel Aviv's military industries. That's why they keep saying, oh, we're a superpower. We don't need U.S. money. Yeah, because you're going to be one in the same. Extremely concerning. The refusal came via the U.S. House of Representatives rules process for the National Defense Authorization Act. The act determines which proposed amendments to the defense policy bill will be debated and voted on. The bipartisan bill by Ro Khanna and Massey had proposed an amendment that would have removed the integration initiative called the U.S. Aardvark Land Defense Technology Initiative from the bill, from the defense policy bill. And so they got shot down. And no funding for Aardvark land as well. No military aid there. Some more concerning, I think the next one. Oh, yeah. This report is extremely concerning. That one is as well. It's coming down the pipe here now. Not quite yet, and this one, not quite yet, but extremely concerning. Pentagon prepares to deploy boots on the ground in Lebanon. The U.S. is said to be building a massive base near Gaza, where Washington's so-called ceasefire efforts have failed to restrain Tel Aviv. The U.S. military is planning to deploy troops on the ground in Lebanon in order to aid Hezbollah disarmament efforts and oversee the new agreement signed illegally between Beirut and Tel Aviv, the Washington Post reported. Earlier today, the U.S. military will have a direct role in monitoring actions by both the Lebanese army and the Aardvark Land Army. A U.S. official told the Washington Post, U.S. forces will deploy troops on the ground in both countries, the source added. We call balls and strikes, if you will, so our political leadership can apply whatever pressure needs to be applied on either side to get them to hold up their end. Head of U.S. Central Command, Brad Cooper, said is not taking a direct role in overseeing either side, but officials with Central Command would report any violations to the Trump administration, which would cheer them on, which would then engage, the report said. The report came as Nabin Berri, Lebanese parliament speaker and head of Hezbollah ally, the Amal movement, reportedly doubled down on recent comments rejecting the new Beirut-Tel Aviv deal brokered by Washington, signed in direct violation of Lebanese laws. According to Lebanese political sources, Berri is working to build a broad cross-sectarian political front to oppose the Lebanese Aardvark Land Framework Agreement. The speaker had hinted toward such efforts in an interview on Monday. The U.S. Lebanon Aardvark Land deal signed in Washington on June 26 stipulates that Hezbollah must disarm before any withdrawal of occupation forces can take place. It calls for the establishment of, quote, pilot zones, that's the land they stole, in which Lebanese armed forces would deploy in order to dismantle non-state armed groups, including the resistance. 2 initial zones have been agreed to by the Aardvark Land Army and the Lebanese Army, and future pilot zones will also be agreed upon by multiple consent. Clause 3 of the framework stipulates, in effect, forcing the Lebanese army to take permission from Aardvark Land on where it would deploy. I love that Tel Aviv's running the Lebanese army. But hey, they're sovereign country, independent. We're told. Little Marco tells us that every other day. The deal would also bar Lebanon from filing legitimate international legal complaints against Aardvarkland, which has killed over 4,000 Lebanese and displaced over 1 million Lebanese, ethnic cleansing, since the start of the most recent war in March. Another clause legitimizes support from Arab partners in disarming the resistance. Hebrew and Lebanese media reports have discussed the existence of a secret clause which aim to solidify Aardvarkland's occupation and grant Tel Aviv the right to approve the Lebanese army's work. So basically, they are running the Lebanese army now. Washington Post report earlier today comes after weeks of Hebrew newspaper Aardvarkland Hayom, that's the one run by old Adelson, revealed that Washington has begun work on a large military base on the Gaza Strip border. The construction of the base aims to advance U.S. President Trump's so-called peace plan for the Strip. We have learned that the U.S. Army has begun constructing a massive base on the Gaza border, not far from Reim. Trump's Gaza plan was meant to oversee the implementation of a proper ceasefire and withdrawal of Aardvarkland troops from the enclave. Since the plan was launched in late 2025, Aardvarkland has killed over 1,000 Palestinians and has significantly expanded its occupation of Gaza. Yeah, that's right. They're taking the whole joint. Hezbollah vows to defeat U.S.-backed framework agreement with Aardvarkland. Hezbollah has pledged to block the implementation of a newly signed U.S.-backed framework agreement between Lebanon and Aardvarkland following a wave of condemnation from a majority of Lebanese political factions. I don't know what Tel Aviv's running your military now, bro. What's the problem? Are you anti-septic? In comments, the New Arab senior Hezbollah official, Qam Adi, described the accords as born dead, warning that the resistance movement will not allow it to be implemented and will confront it through every possible means. So you can expect the war in Lebanon to continue. Well, Bibi tells us here now, later in the reporting. Let's see. Where are we at here? I had a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, there are many reports here now. They're trafficking the Venezuelan people, the children there after this earthquake. Clinton Foundation, other NGO aid philanthropic groups are on the ground trafficking the children. Here's one of these reports, and I saw a bunch of these: rescued Venezuelan plushie from the earthquake. And in the description, 6 years old, very good, white. And we've seen this before on other sites, Etsy and others. Why is that cabinet? Why is that particle board cabinet cost $15,000? Well, because it's actually a child they're trafficking. And now we're seeing it on these other sites. And I've seen other reports of it as well. This now, Littlest Pet Shop. And so this is ongoing now. And I saw another, see if I can look it up quickly here for you live. Never mind. I'll come back to it tomorrow and continue to report as this story develops. But it does appear by many different reports and accounts on the ground in Venezuela. Orphan children are being snatched up by criminal gangs and trafficked into the underworld, horrifically enough. Center for Strategic and International Studies, after Maduro human trafficking and the vulnerability of Venezuelan migrants. They go on in this report to talk about, and this is earlier this year, but Yeah. Yeah, it's ongoing. The child trafficking, tragically enough, there in Venezuela. Now, the front man for System of a Down rock group, Sergei Tankian, an Armenian, he's saying he's pissed off that now Aardvark Land is recognizing that Turkey did the Armenian genocide. It says they're weaponizing it, accusing Aardvark Land of weaponizing historical atrocities for geopolitical leverage. Let's hear from him now about it. I know, antiseptic trigger warning.
The fact that this government is already committing genocide in Gaza and Lebanon, decided to recognize the genocide of my grandparents, is the worst fucking thing that they could have done to Armenians. For many years, Israel's government used AIPAC to lobby the US Congress to not recognize the Armenian genocide, to prevent Congress from recognizing the Armenian genocide, due to their relationship with Turkey, their intelligence sharing with Turkey, etc. Today, the Netanyahu cabinet decided to recognize the Armenian genocide of 1915, a genocide that led to Hitler thinking that he could do what he could do to the Jews in the 1930s and 40s. The fact that this government is already committing genocide in Gaza and Lebanon, decided to recognize the genocide of my grandparents, is the worst fucking thing that they could have done to Armenians by using our history, our genocide, our pain to their political advantage. Fuck you.
Wow, tell us how you really feel. I like the Armenians. I have an Armenian friend over here, a great freedom fighter, and I'll just leave it at that. But I like the Armenians, at least the ones I've met personally. Rights groups demand ICC prosecute UAE officials over Sudan genocide. Yesterday, a coalition of rights groups formally requested the International Criminal Court, ICC, to investigate high-level officials from the UAE and other regional states for complicity in the genocide of non-Arab tribes in the Sudan. Yeah. We've been reporting on it a little bit here now, and all of the other war reporting. A damning Human Rights Watch report titled "From Bogota to El Fasher" has exposed a highly organized pipeline funneling Colombian mercenaries into Sudan to support the genocidal Rapid Support Forces, and claims of heavy funding there by the UAE. The UAE-backed Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, they're wiping out a bunch of them. And so we'll keep following this. What's the ICC good for? Honestly, it takes the political will to enforce international law, and we don't see much of that around anywhere nowadays, do we? Again, Yemen Houthis are begin a major mobilization effort to counter renewed Saudi aggression there, and also Aardvark Land aggression via Somaliland, via their genocides. And so the old Houthis are still, they're ready to go. They got their AKs, they're ready to go. So Bibi, Shadow President of America, visits Aardvark Land security zone in southern Lebanon. There he is, a man of war with the troops. This bastard, cats too, right? These other bastards. Wow. Netanyahu said, "Let me tell you something," on this Aardvark Channel 14 show. They don't translate into English in this clip, so I'll just read you what he said. He said, "Let me tell you something. The war is never over." So a complete bloodthirsty psychopath that wants to kill everybody. The war is never over. Do you want to live in the Middle East and in the world? You must be very strong. We must be very strong. Aardvark land is stronger than ever. The war is never over. Here it is on Aardvark Channel 14. There, you can see. Still crying about October 7th. They engineered the whole damn thing. Give me a friggin' break. Around 1,000 Syrian Shia families face displacement as authorities demolish village in West Homs. According to Syrian Justice Archive, authorities affiliated with Syria's transitional government moved into predominantly Shia villages, and they're kicking out those Muslims. So again, if these Muslims could ever get it together and stop all their infighting, the Anglo-American establishment would have some problems, but obviously it's engineered balkanization, divide and conquer, and they buy it hook, line, and sinker, and they got all their other own issues without all that outside manipulation upon them. So yeah, not good there for Syrian refugees. Baghdadi, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, said the United States is obliged under Article 1 of the Iran-U.S. MOU to end the war on all fronts, particularly in Lebanon, stressing that Washington, not Aardvark land, is Iran's counterpart to the agreement. Huh? What? Aardvark land runs Lebanon military now. Oh. So he said, continuing here, he said the United States must honor its commitments and, if necessary, compel Aardvark land to halt its military attacks and comply with the memorandum, adding that Tehran will judge U.S. compliance solely on the text of the agreement, regardless of any separate understandings. They're damn antiseptics. They want them to do what they actually wrote in the agreement. That's antiseptic, anti-American behavior. I think I hear them chanting death to America, the great Satan. Yep. Damn terrorists, I tell you. Baghdadi said no meetings with U.S. officials are scheduled in Doha in the coming days. He explained that discussions expected to take place in Qatar concern the implementation of specific provisions of the memorandum with Qatari officials, including the release of Iran's frozen assets, adding that preparations for implementing the agreement's various clauses are underway. Huh? I thought we were meeting with Iran. No. It seems pretty straightforward. In all honesty, all joking aside, I mean, the foreign ministry spokesman is pretty damn straightforward. What anybody would expect about a contract. And we're like, you're an antiseptic screaming, I hate America and death to America, and you're a terrorist. And it's like, no, bro. It's what you wrote on the freaking paper that were agreed upon, that we're going by. Shocking, I know. Let's see here. Where are we at? We already reported on that. So they're claiming, Bibi is claiming here now that they're claiming that Hezbollah possesses 8% of Lebanese territory and has 150,000 missile and rocket stockpile. And that's why they must maintain their security zones. They've stolen the land and they're not giving it back. They've essentially ethnically cleansed over 1 million Lebanese civilians. And there's video, they're leveling southern Lebanon continually. Should we even, I mean, it's like a far off shot. Yeah, they're bombing the place. Aardvark Land Finance Minister Smotrich says Aardvark Land is ready to immediately build 3 Aardvark settlements in northern Gaza if Netanyahu approves. He says Aardvark Land will fully conquer Gaza. As we continue to report, that's been the plan the entire time. That's why they engineered October 7th to pull this whole peace deal off, which is genocide, everybody steal their land, and then turn it into the Trump Riviera and say, we don't know why they won't leave. They literally have nowhere to go but the sea. If you cross that line, they whack you. Nobody wants them. Remember that? Well, yeah, as soon as you take them, they're going to go after them wherever they are. Horrific, tragic photos here. I won't even show them to you, but a bunch of kids, Palestinian, 1-year-old baby shot by Aardvark forces, a 10-year-old and 2 men killed there in Gaza. And they show there's other children. In the past 24 hours, Netanyahu said, he said on that same Channel 14 show, showed a little bit earlier, he said, everyone who participated in October 7th will be killed. So is he going to commit seppuku, Harry Carey on himself? I highly doubt it. Ben Gvir, Smotrich, the rest of their intelligence apparatus? No? No. Okay. But all those damn Hamas, he's basically saying all of Gaza, right? All of Gaza will be killed. So in the past 24 hours, it's ongoing genocide. Aardvark forces have killed 8 Palestinians, including 2 young girls, and wounded more than 40 across the Gaza Strip. And the attacks are ongoing. That was yesterday. You could say within the last, 48 hours. We reported a little bit of it yesterday. And they go through in this in detail, the horrific death totals, and there's pictures of it, and it's all quite horrific and tragic. The Palestinian Health Ministry has reported in Gaza since the October 11th ceasefire, 1,053 Palestinians have been killed, 3,406 wounded, and 786 bodies recovered from the rubble. This little kid, to humanize their faces there, 3-year-old. And there's other images of them with all mangled, right, after they whacked them, blown apart. But this is 3-year-old Palestinian boy, Rayun Abdul Al-Ajin, is killed by Aardvark Land gunfire in central Gaza. Aardvark occupation forces set fire to large areas of privately owned Palestinian agricultural land in Jezreel Valley near Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Here's an image of that. And so they do love their arson. Scorched earth, creating apocalyptic hellscape wherever they go. This was A clear-cut execution in broad daylight. Aardvark land forces reportedly killed Amir Ahmed Jawad Jabber, a 15-year-old Palestinian teenager, during a raid in the occupied West Bank yesterday. The murdering children, straight up murder. And they keep bombing the refugees on the Gaza Strip that are in the tents. Here's some photos. There are already refugees living in tents, bro. Well, they're damn terrorists. They're bombing, literally bombing the refugees in tents. All this little girl has left. They'll probably bomb her for that. Whew. That's all the reporting I got for today. I think the most concerning is this merging up. The 2027 NDAA is extremely concerning. Obviously, that hasn't passed, but this whole, we're building a giant military base there in Gaza, and now IDF runs Lebanon military, and we're just there to be standers by and calling balls and strikes and all this BS. Why the hell are we there? Now, U.S. military boots on the ground in Lebanon. Latest headlines out of Iran International. Have they started major bombings again since we've been on air? Let's see. Iran says it won't enter further talks until MOU terms met. We're kind of at a that same Persian standoff here now. Again. And who could have seen this coming? I don't know. They said, stop what you're doing in Lebanon. Aardvark land said, F you, we do whatever we want. We're the Aardvarks. You know what I mean? And so U.S. in strong position, regardless of Iran negotiations outcome, J.D. Vance says. IRGC-linked individuals sought entry with Iran World Cup delegation. They're making that claim. And I saw the Department of Homeland Security wasn't in Mullen, was happy that Iran lost, so now they don't got to deal with that security issue. Ghalibaf details, that's the, again, the Iranian Speaker of the House or parliamentary speaker. Ghalibaf details $12 billion in Iranian assets with unrestricted central bank access. Good job, Trump administration, Vance, Trump, Rubio, all you clowns. You're paying the terrorists again, like you railed against Obama for doing. Now you're doing it. So great job. Hashtag we won the war. And our gas prices are still extremely high. And they finally figured out today that we can't afford groceries, threatening retail gas sellers here in America. We truly do live in idiocracy clown world run by con men. Stop believing and trusting these lying criminals. The entire government and the whole stupid narrative. Oh, yeah, it's the Republican. Oh, it's the Democrats too. It's the Uniparty. It's the freaking government. Damn, dude. Finally here now, Al Jazeera. Qatar's prime minister meets U.S. envoys in Doha. Iran holds firm on conditions for talks. It's a great success. We're talking about talking with some other guys that may be able to get Iran to come talk to us. After we quit lying, manipulating, and whacking Lebanese and Palestinians. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic, I swear. And the whole time, doing all these manipulations, profiteering off of this never-ending war. I did see this report. Aardvarkland arrests U.S. citizen on allegations of spying for Iran. So about all we got for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Let's head over to the Odysee channel, and we'll wrap up this broadcast. See if there's any chat over there. Shout out to the Odysee chat. Thank you guys for joining us. Shout out to Pink, Deep, Fat Bob. Yeah, Immapreneur. I guess that's how you say her name. Immapreneur. Emma and I conversed on this point before X banned me. It's probably why they did ban you, honestly. They're Fat Bob. I maintain male infant circumcision is MK Ultra and SRA. Right on, Fat Bob. I agree. I agree with you. And what about that crazy we were talking about on the Friday show about in the womb, right? They get you in the womb so they can claim their God, essentially, power over nature, right? And they start, for the ones born into the program, MK Ultra program, they start when you're literally in the womb with the needle. Hey, let's include the Church of Scientology and their SRA human trafficking racket. Good ad there, Fat Bob. Let's see here. Deep says, I think the whole public is exposed to trauma-based mind control at this point, thanks to Aardvarkland. Yeah. Well, these modern wars where everybody has cell phones, especially when Ukraine-Russia war first kicked off, I remember the whole internet was flooded with war porn. It's just bodies blowing apart. It's quite traumatic. And then, of course, Aardvark Genocide's internet flooded with children's bodies blown apart. Extremely traumatic. Yeah. Deep says Fox is 666 in numerology. Let's see here. Anthropic, Sam, to be PC. Should be named Miss Anthropic. Oh, man. Bibby sounds like Dracula, Pink says. Yeah, I think he is. He's denied. He said, hey, all those claims of us poisoning the well and drinking the baby's blood all throughout history, and it's getting kicked out of every place we've ever been. That was just all antiseptic, you see. No, I think it's their thing, and we've seen even the rigged history we have tells us that this has been the case. Let's see. Fat Bob says Paul Craig Roberts pretty much threw up his hands at the Iran squabble. Let's see. Aardvarks are looking to get Texas Department of Education to teach Old Testament Bible stories in public classrooms to teach about Aardvark's BS history. Give equal time to the fairy tales of L. Ron Hubbard and the Book of Mormon as well. Isn't that fair use or something? I forget the stupid. It's fair time or something where they would do that on talk radio in the 80s, 90s. Yeah, you got to have fair indoctrination. And of course, Satanists will come and they'll say, what about the book of Satan or whatever the hell their book is? You know what I mean? So First Amendment, freedom of religion. So everybody has to have all of their, and then they'll be teaching the Islam, Sharia law, and it just never ends. It just never ends, does it? But yeah, we should have Scientology and all their weird stuff as well. What the hell? It's America 250. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee and chatting it up there. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on Kick, X, Facebook, Bitchute, Substack, YouTube, and Rumble. Let's head over there to these other channels now. I can see YouTube and Rumble chat here. Shout out to Mac, Dio, Angus on the YouTube. Project Montauk, Angus says, your smart meter can do the same thing as well as map your nervous system in your home. Yeah. You should not have a smart meter. Let's see. Angus says on the YouTube, he says, my dad was part of U.S. Navy for ECM reconnaissance. 1965 to 1968, he was using an oscilloscope while in country once they set up the triangulation points to map the enemy nervous system. That's a long friggin' time ago. They've been at it a while. Many crimes are done with it, and people think is crazy ones. Well, that's the whole point, right? We didn't even get to the targeted individuals, right? That's another part of it. "86 missions, 37 countries with enemy at 16 KCs." Huh. So in 1965, he was mapping the enemy's nervous system in the jungles of Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. Nowadays, a camera will do the same thing. Huh. Poor Bimbo's having trouble reading her script. You're mean, Ruckus. She's trying to expose MK Ultra. Shame on the U.S. Shame on the U.S. military. Marty said, yeah. Nothing like sowing the seeds of division by giving each side what they want to see. Some good points, some good comments over there on the YouTube today. Let's see. Karen, shout out to Karen. Woo, that strong words she has for CIA. What about DARPA and friends? Oh, they can't bring that up for the targeted individuals community. Good points there, Karen. Maybe they'll get to it. They say there's going to be more hearings. But I like Emma Catherine's point. Why are you bringing in these guys that wrote books about it? Bring in the freaking victims. There's your firsthand account of the abuse from the victims. They talk about the bats. Bat time was the largest. Yeah, I hear you, Angus. Yeah. Yeah, they're putting a lot of stuff in the tap water. Filter your water for sure. They're talking about fluoride, jet fuel. Yeah. Here's a good point for research. If it's true, I haven't looked into it. Operation Paperclip, actually, it's Project Paperclip. They changed that one online. You will find older books with Project Paperclip. That's Angus there on the YouTube. good comment. So if you're researching, right, instead of putting Operation Paperclip, put Project Paperclip, and you may find different results. I haven't tried it, but just saying that could be a reason why they changed it up like that. So some good comments there. Appreciate it on the YouTube. Let's see. I recall correctly, it's neuromodulation now, and Internet of Behaviors for All of Us went live in 2023. Karen says on the Rumble. Government microwaves people's brains and gives them Havana syndrome. If you guys haven't seen, I've been covering it. The Department of War is openly bragging for the last 6 months about ever since they kidnapped old Maduro out of Venezuela. They've been openly bragging about the discombobulator directed energy weapons. Yeah, the towers, Project Pegasus, real Roy Cohen. That's a good screen name there. Skynet building its brain and manufacturing facilities. Yeah. They erase people's minds with electromagnetic weapons. Let's see. Karen says in around 2012-ish, you could buy a jump drive for your phone and hit buttons, make your wife or girlfriend urinate herself, have a seizure, whatever you wanted to do, and everyone will call her crazy. That's so. Talk about the ultimate gaslighting. Well, quite a few technical comments. I can't cover them all. I got to get out of here, but right. I do appreciate all of your guys' comments there on the YouTube. And it looks like today some legitimate comments and not just trolling. So thank you guys for that. Let's see. Wait until release planking challenge, ice bucket, mask challenge. We're all social conditioning to make sure everyone. Yeah, that's a good point. Luke on the YouTube. Luke says, hopefully in 2 years, Americans will go back to being Americans and not red versus blue. Yeah, Trump's the most divisive figure. That's why he's there. He's an actor. He's a dark occultist, magician. And that's exactly why he's there, is to be the most divisive asshole that this country's ever seen. So, yeah, maybe we can get back to some sanity and treating fellow Americans, regardless of their political, but they have politicized their entire society, and that has added to it with Trump, the chief provocateur there on top, dividing us up. LOL, Anthropic is pronounced nuclear. Well, thank you, Ruckus, for your correcting me there. We did get $2 from Plutonium. Appreciate that very much. Anthropic. Ruckus among us was right. I think I'll always just call it Anthropic, but yeah. It's good to hear that your finger's getting better there, Plutonium. My finger is getting better too. Good. Good, good, good. I'm Sam's speech coach. I need it. Well, I talk enough on the show, you know, I'll never get my speech right for the aardvarks and the friggin' Arabs. But some of these guys have like 5, 6, 7 names. It's just like, dude, just call you Ali. You know what I mean? Their name just goes on and on and on and on. It's like, what? Come on, you're just Ali. Come on. Pray for Japan. They protect us from China. Their economy's not looking good. Wait till Venezuela finds out U.S. can cause earthquakes. I think they know. I'm pretty sure what the old dude, the guy that the commie they all hate. The hell's his name? Before Maduro. I can't even think. Chavez, right? Chavez was at the UN talking about it. Pretty sure about U.S. has earthquake weapons. It's live. Skyborg is live. Karen says Skynet's live. This is not good. A bunch of confirmation. Skynet's live. What the hell? In the chats here. That's not good. Here's Hemp Car and the Rumble. Freemasonry and aardvarkism, secret powers behind revolution and witchcraft and the Illuminati. I'm looking into it now. Wow, Hemp Car. When I was in college, I printed a bunch. Huh. Do what you're told, America. Epstein's lists matter more than a country you once had. Sunlight gives you vitamins, Ruckus says. Independence Day penny on the Independence Day yet joined at the hip. I hear you. People dying for nothing. No, they're dying they're dying for that land and ritualistic blood sacrifices. It's not for nothing. Kelly on the YouTube, is the real reason for all these wars to get the children? Certainly seems so. Well, there's multiple. They fulfill multiple agenda items, but that's one of them. Jordan guaranteed their safety under two-state solution. But we can never get to the two-state solution, right? They said it will take generations to navigate this horrible crime, Max says. Yeah. Contempt for Aardvark land is immutable after this. Yeah. And your fake conservative media is out there. The alternative media is a bunch of them. I see them out there. Oh, it's just Bibi. Oh, it's just Bibi. He's the bad one. Really? Just Bibi, huh? All right, friends. Thank you for tuning in on this Tuesday and having a cordial, informative chat. That's what it's supposed to be about, instead of fleeing insults and screaming MAGA and you're a commie Democrat or whatever, or you're aardvark or whatever nonsense a lot of these trolls do, or bots or whatever they are. Today was pretty good. Two-state solution. People can't even figure out there's only two genders. And we'll leave it with that. Two-state solution is a folly and a device. One-state solution with parity for all citizens in the land. Eat your groceries, said. Well, they have a one-state solution is genocide, everybody. And there's your one state. All right, friends, as always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening. And